Okay, well, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today. We have this is our usual Saturday. It's a little bit different from our usual Saturday. For Tracey, Ophelia, what we usually do on Saturdays is we sit a couple of periods and then we have a bit of a community visit, but we figured we'd shake it up a little bit for today. So we'll begin first with one second here. So we acknowledge that what we call Alberta is the traditional and ancestral territory of many peoples presently subject to Treaties 6, 7, and 8, namely the Blackfoot Confederacy, Kainai Pikani, Siksika, the Cree, Dene, Soto, Nakota Sioux, Nakota, Stony Nakota, the Tsuut'ina Nation, and the Métis people of Alberta. This includes the Métis settlements in the 6 regions of the Métis Nation of Alberta within the historical Northwest Métis homeland. We acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who have lived in and cared for these lands for generations. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. We make this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those whose territory we reside on or are visiting. Thank you. We'll just do some quick introductions. Good morning, Yokoyama Sensei. Good morning, Tracey. Good morning, Kathy. Good morning, Nathan. Good morning, Sean. Good morning, Randall. Good morning, Marlon. Good morning, Joe. Good morning, Ophelia. Thank you very much for joining us. So I'm just going to turn it right over to Tracey. Maybe Tracey, if you might be able to give us a quick intro as to who you are, and then the floor is totally yours. So thanks again for joining us.
Thank you. Normally when I give talks, we start and end with a bell. Would that be okay? Could we have a bell? Thank you. So good morning, dear friends, dear Thai, dear Sangha. It's so lovely to be here with you all. It's always a special privilege to be able to connect with a new Sangha or a Sangha I haven't attended before. And it's such a gift to be able to just be present here as a community. I so appreciate it. So I am, just for a little bit of introductions, I just wanted to send greetings. I'm from the Wildrose Sangha in Calgary, and my name and my Dharma name is True Fragrant Field. I founded the Calgary Sangha in the Plum Village tradition in 2003, and I was ordained as a member of the Order of Interbeing in 2010. So today I'm going to talk about practice. So it may seem like I am going to talk about our tradition and the Order of Interbeing, but most intimately about practice itself, because I think whatever tradition we come from, we're all pointed in the same direction. Our toes are all pointed in the same direction. So how do we do that, regardless of what name we give ourselves? So I just want to start really at the beginning. I think whatever human form we are given, we deeply seek for meaning and purpose and direction in our lives. I don't think there's any human that doesn't want to contribute to their lives in something very meaningful. They want to show up to life, be seen by life, and be acknowledged somehow that we are doing something of significance. And because we want that, we go seeking a way to do that. So we try to find a direction and a path that will allow that to happen. And again, I don't think this is confined to spiritual seekers, religious communities. It's something that's so pervasive about being a human on this planet that we look for it and we try and find it whatever way we are placed upon this earth. So underneath this is often this deep desire to know oneself, life itself, to feel love and belonging, community, and a way to fulfill that in the life, in daily life. And I think that often it can feel like I don't know how to do that. I don't know which direction to go. I can feel trapped by the conditions that seem to block the direction that I think I ought to be going. And sometimes when we really are looking deeply and seeking, there can be this sense of being a little bit outside of the conventional world. And sometimes it's like I've been looking for a long time and I don't know where it is that I fit in. So when I started my journey to build Sangha, I had a very deep aspiration to wake up and to understand the truth of the way things were. I have walked my life knowing that there was something other than what I had been originally given, some answer to how to live this life that was not being touched upon in conventional ways. And so that sort of seed of question, that seed of I don't know, but I know that the things I've been given don't answer it. And that seed sort of worked away at me. I'm feeling that deeply, and it's working its way inside me. And I really wasn't able to explain it or express it for a long time. And I think that's a really interesting thing, that you come upon people in that place, and they're often seekers or confused, or, you know, they can be really enthusiastic people, but it's like not quite knowing exactly the direction to go. And I think as a young person, I was like that until I stumbled upon the writings of the Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh. I was a young woman at university and I started reading his poems. And it was almost immediate. As soon as I started reading his poems, there was this bright connection. And I felt like there was this bond, like, oh, I know this person. I know what this is, and I know who this is. And it felt like he was speaking directly to me. As if it was like, oh, this is my very good friend. And he knows me personally. And it's funny because I think that is not unusual for people's encounters with Thai. And I think it's because he is expressing the most profound realization of interbeing. He expressed it through his whole body and being. And so when you encounter that kind of person, it resonates inside of you. You feel it also because it's waking up that same place inside of you. So the poem that really shook me is a very popular poem. And again, I think I'm not the only one who had this experience. It's called Please Call Me by My True Names. And so I just wanted to read to you parts of it. Please call me by my true names. Don't say that I will depart tomorrow. Even today, I am still arriving. Look deeply. Every second, I am arriving to be a bud on a spring branch, to be a tiny bird with still, flat, fragile wings, learning to sing in my new nest, to be a caterpillar in the heart of a flower, to be a jewel hiding itself in a stone. I still arrive in order to laugh and to cry, to fear and to hope. The rhythm of my heart is the birth and death of all that is alive. When I read that part, I read this sense of absolute connection with all of life. There's this intense brightness to it. There's no rejection of life. It's just, I am really, really here. I'm really present in this world. And then it goes on to say, I am a mayfly metamorphosing on the surface of the river, and I am a bird that swoops down to swallow the mayfly. So we see that comparing and contrasting between the one who eats and the one who is eaten. And similarly, he does another comparison here where the poem goes on. I am the 12-year-old girl refugee on a small boat who throws herself into the ocean after being raped by a sea pirate. And I am also the pirate, my heart not yet capable of seeing and loving. And I think reading those lines really struck me because I think in my own life, I never heard anybody willingly and openly include what we might call evil. There was just this sense that you had to not be that thing. And what I loved about these lines was, what if we could include in ourselves that which we want to reject? What would that do? And then finally, the poem concludes, please call me by my true names, so I can hear all my cries and laughter at once, so I can see that my joy and pain are one. Please call me by my true names, so I can wake up, and the door of my heart could be left open, the door of compassion. And again, this beautiful expression of compassion, it really points directly to interbeing, the word that Thich coined, the principle of interconnectedness, which is the ground upon which all of existence rests, if we consider that in our Buddhist philosophy. I think today, it's nice to look at these phrases from a distance, and you can say, oh yes, the refugee and the pirate. But how do we include that in our conflicts today? Can you include both the protest of the truckers? Can you include Trudeau? Can you include your friends who disagree with you? So it's this immediate, it's this right now. How are you including all of that? And can your door of compassion be left open? And it's not wanting to be political, but wanting to actually look at inside of ourselves, where is that conflict happening? Because these are very real and alive things happening right now. So, as I said, the beauty of Thai's understanding was it wasn't just an intellectual concept. It actually radiated out from his whole being because he embodied it. And to act in harmony with this understanding of interbeing completely in one's life is to have fulfilled the path. It's to have lived an awakened life. But it's okay. We're part-time Buddhas, so we don't have to do it completely. We just try as best as we can, and we are doing it part-time. So once you have that understanding about interbeing, it shifts something inside of us, and we know when we're out of step with it. We go, oh yeah, I remember that connectedness. I remember that compassion inside of me. So we know when we are misperceiving, and we know how to get back to it. In Buddhist terms, it helps us to see where we are ignorant. And this is not a malicious kind of ignorance. It's the kind of ignorance that is our species. It's human to be misperceiving the world, to not understand our vast interconnectedness. And to awaken means to cast off the dream world we're swimming in and see things just as they are, which is not a thought exercise. It's like an orientation. It's a perceptual shift. It permeates your whole mind when this happens. And again, we're part-time Buddhas, so I think we've all experienced it a little bit. And when we are able to see it, it takes a lifetime to clarify and amplify it, to fully embody it in the life we have. And each of us has a unique opportunity to awaken in this body, in this life. So we can't leave it up to other teachers or practitioners. We have to do it for ourselves in this very place at this time. As Thich says, one Buddha is not enough. I think for a long time in my own practice, I would always think Thich is this example, this absolute example of how to live your life. And if I don't mindfully step, if I don't listen to the bell, if I don't bow before my meal, well, that's okay because somebody else is doing the practice better than me. And when he had his stroke, I had this feeling like, well, he's not there to do those things anymore. I better step up and do that. But we don't have to have that moment when our teacher isn't there anymore to have that realization, because each of us has to wake up. Each of us has to be that alive because nobody else can do it. And it is really important that you are doing it in your own life, and only you can figure out how that works. So the Buddhist path is, the teachers and the teachings are just there to give us an opportunity to encounter interbeing, to embody it. And like I said, it's a very human experience. Even if we never encountered any path or the teachers, we might still have these realizations and act upon it. Many people do, actually, and it's beautiful when you can see it. But it's just that when we walk this path together, it gives us an increased chance to embody it. And it helps us to look at our blind spots. It helps us to see, oh, that's something I wouldn't have looked at by myself, but somebody else can see it. And it also gives us this deep energy to transmit this understanding to others. When we come together and we practice, we create this energy together. You could always feel it when you're on these big 1,000-person retreats with Thich. There's just like this body of energy walking together. And you could feel it almost illuminating the grasses and the trees. The other thing is if we don't have a path and a community, we can get caught in the mainstream ways of thinking. Very easy to do, even for practitioners. And then we drift away from our own deepest truth. So we build sanghas, we listen to the teachings, we try to act in our own lives. And all of the practices, the vows, the robes, the structures we build are just there to assist us to living it out. That's all they are. And sometimes it works, sometimes the path works for us, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the path works for someone else, but it doesn't work for us. So we don't need to wear a brown jacket, take precepts, live in a monastery, or be given a special name to live the embodied life of realization. They're just signs of our orientation, of our constantly turning over and over towards the truth of interbeing. Like wearing a wedding band that reminds us of our commitment to taking vows. The robe is just there to encourage us to remember the choice that we want to make over and over. And it also encourages others to remind us of this choice. And it begins to work on our hearts and minds, both inwardly and outwardly. And it refines our inner vow to awaken to this very moment. I have found it very encouraging and not always easy, but I'm grateful that I've been given the opportunity to have a sign, to have the brown robe, to be able to speak, because it gives me this opportunity to keep showing up to practice. But it also means when things are really hard, I keep showing up. Like, it's hard to avoid when people say, well, you're supposed to know what to do. So Anyway, this is maybe a complicated way of saying that when I want to see more love and compassion in the world, I need support and guidance to stay true to myself to ensure that I act this way. And there are so many ways to do this. There's no perfect way, there's no essential way. At least that's what my tradition says. It might be other people have different ways of seeing it. So, the way I see it is we should really orient ourselves to those traditions and practices that ring true for us. They give us the best chance of waking up energetically, joyfully, enthusiastically. Find a path that makes you wake up like that. And of course, we'll always have bumps on the road, whatever practice we choose, whatever community we belong to. But those are excellent opportunities for transformation. And what I like to say is that it's helpful to not internalize or externalize the problems on the path. What I mean by that is, if you internalize the problems, you say, I'm at fault. I'm the problem here. I'm doing something wrong. The path is correct. The teachers are correct. If we externalize it, we say the problem is the teacher, the problem is the community, the problem is the path. Don't do either of those things. So it's a funny place to sit, to not externalize or internalize it. What you can do is when a bump comes up, look into it with your own practice. Look deeply. Use the practice itself to see what's going on. Sometimes it means I need to do something. Sometimes it means I need to say something. And sometimes it means I do nothing at all. Be intelligent. So the Order of Interbeing is a special path that some practitioners take within the Plum Village tradition of engaged Buddhism. It's an opportunity to find ways in this particular life, this body, to fulfill and embody the teachings of our teacher, the Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, and the community of practitioners that lives around the world, the Plum Village tradition of engaged Buddhism. It's not necessarily an easy path, but I think it does give an opportunity, if it really excites a person and gets them excited about waking up. And I just, I want to say that for reference, you can read more about it in the book Interbeing. I'll just show you this one. Here's the book. I don't know, it might have another version of it, but that's the one I have. And because that has the charter and ties commentary and the 14 mindfulness trainings in it. Erin, do you have another book? Oh, look at that, it's new. Yeah, I thought there might be a new one. Thanks. And you can also go to the website or orderofinterbeing.org, and there's a lot of information about the traditions and practices. I'm also happy to take questions afterwards if you have questions. So our community is guided by a charter, and each member takes the 14 mindfulness trainings, makes vows of commitment to practice, which are quite extensive, and vows to create Sangha, build Sangha in this community. So it requires time, mentorship by a teacher and by other order members, a commitment to the community, and a willingness to transform oneself in specific ways. The 4 principles of the charter include these things. And again, this is it's kind of different maybe from other traditions, but this is the way we go. So 1, non-attachment to views, which means that we try not to get stuck in a view, and we try to stay open. It also means that there's no particular sutra that is central to our teachings. We try to make sure we include all the sutras, and we use them whatever is available. Direct experimentation, which really comes from, we come from the Rinzai tradition, Linchi. So that direct experimentation is really coming from that lineage. So we work it out. It's like, does this actually work? Try it. Okay, did that work? Didn't work. try something else. So we don't get stuck in the idea that we have to do something. It's just, but it has to work. You have to figure it out if it works, which is actually in some ways harder than just following along a line. You have to see if it does work. The third is appropriateness in terms of teachings, which means a teaching has to be follow Buddhist teachings, the core things about interbeing, impermanence, no self, etc. And also, so you can't just be a Buddhist teaching, and they have to be relevant and helpful. So it's like it has to be useful to us right now in this day. And then finally, the fourth part of the charter is skillful means, which means we use all kinds of methods to guide people intelligently through all the Dharma doors. So whatever means it seems like we can use to get people through the Dharma doors, we're going to use them. so, so it might look kind of messy too. I think that's why sometimes our tradition looks messy to outsiders, and that's because we're doing all of this, direct experimentation. We're using skillful means. It just looks like, oh, we'll pull this out and pull that out. But when you actually live it and practice it, you realize, wow, it actually works. And that's because we're trying things out. Try not to just do things for the sake of experimentation. You don't have to like reinvent the wheel, but it's life. It's always changing. So as a result of this openness and flexibility, the order is not dogmatic about following specific texts or exclusionary regarding particular methods, but it is clear that there are methods that follow a way of being in the world that points directly to interbeing, that relieves suffering. So in some ways, it's actually a bit more challenging than some paths that give guidelines based on authority or on strict structured adherence. And again, there are benefits to doing it that way. It's just that we've decided to choose a different direction. The guidebook in this tradition is life itself, the community, and our relationships, which means we're always negotiating with each other, which is also kind of fun. And I've learned a lot about how to do that because I stepped in guiding the Sangha from a perspective of, well, I know what I'm doing. And they reminded me, but you're in a community. So learn how to be with us. And that's not always been easy. So we have to find ways to negotiate our conflicts, our suffering, and our understanding that always points again and again to that non-dualistic view of interbeing. We're all included. So it takes time to develop this. It takes trust in ourselves and the community. And it takes returning over and over, not to run away. Don't leave Sangha, but to discover new ways to make awakening possible here and now. So you can read the Charter of the Order of Interbeing to learn about the specific requirements and conditions to becoming a member. But I want to say this, an aspiration to become a member of any community should not limit one's practice. We don't know how long our life is. We don't know what will happen next. And there is no guarantee that conditions will arise to fit our ideal of how we think our aspirations should be fulfilled. So if you have an idea that, oh, that's the way I want to go, and that's what will make me happier, that's what will fulfill my practice, you have no idea if that actually will happen. And it can lead to a lot of suffering. I experienced that myself. So that's why I'm conveying that. But there's always an opportunity to fulfill the practice today by entering into life this very moment, right now. So I invite you to ask your heart, what is it that I want to most live in this life? What is it that I most want to see in this world? So now, go practice that. Go be that. And you might stumble along and experiment, ask for help, read the teachings, attend Sangha, make friends in the community. But you have everything you need to wake up. And we're like wanderers in the wilderness, searching for water. And right before us is this clear, cool pool of fresh water. That's the Dharma, the teachings, our teacher. Just find a way to drink it. Drink it for yourself. You don't have to wait. Thank you. Nice to see you. You can listen to the sound of a bell.
Thank you so much, Tracey. And yeah, so if you're willing, we'll open it up to questions from people. Feel free to. There's not many of us, so I think we should be okay with just pop and open the microphone there when you're ready.
All right, I'm going to pop in here with some questions. Tracey, thank you very much for sharing a teaching with us this morning. I'm curious, it sounds like the Sangha there in Calgary has been operating for quite some time. We are a very new group. I'm wondering if you have any pearls of wisdom, some advice on how to go about building a community here in Edmonton. We're just getting started, and yeah, what pitfalls should we avoid? What are the good things you've learned along the way?
Yeah, thank you for the question. It's a very important and useful question, and it's like, certainly I've learned a lot. I don't know if I know that much. I think my most important things that I feel like have worked is to be consistent and show up. You wouldn't believe how much that helps. It's like, I think sometimes when we start a Sangha, and I think you have a lovely Sangha right here. You don't need any more than this. This is great. You've done very well already to see this number of people showing up on a Saturday. I also like the fact that you've chosen 10 o'clock as a start time. It's very easy going. And I think these days on Zoom, it's like people come because of the time zone rather than geography. I was thinking about this. It's like, you have people from all over the world, but they pick the time zone. So you're going to get time zone people who are like, yeah, 10 o'clock on Saturday works for me. You might not get those 6 a.m. people, but that's okay. But yeah, the consistency of just showing up over and over, no matter who is there, no matter how few people, no matter, what the practice feels like to you, just keep coming, keep showing up on that time, on that day. And it's like, when huge conflicts, if they ever do occur, maybe you've got a real steady group here already, but if huge conflicts do occur, just keep coming and keep working it through. It's a powerful Dharma to just be present to each other, because it means that you're not rejecting whoever or whatever it is that's happening. I think it's really important to know that everybody who's shown up here are deep practitioners. There's no better or worse practitioners. Each one of you has a deep aspiration. You would not have shown up. You could choose to be at brunch right now. You could be, out running somewhere. You could be, I don't know, all manner of things. But here you are. And I know that that is because you have a profound aspiration and a real realization in your life. So treat each other like that, that you're all Buddhas trying to wake up. And when you look at each other like that, then you can feel inspired by whoever comes in the door. It is important to have structure and leadership. It can be very helpful. People who are in leadership positions, I would recommend listening. It's really helpful. It's like if somebody says something, it's like, don't fall into wishy-washiness, like going wherever the wind blows. But it's also helpful to say, I hear it, I want to listen to you, I want to take that in, I'm going to take that seriously, and I will change if it seems like that's a good direction to go. My community is also extremely transparent, which means that, and this is sort of unusual, even within the Plum Village tradition, that we have all of our meetings, all of our business meetings are open to every single person. There's no like secret club where people are voted on to a board or whatever, and then there's other people who don't. It's just everybody is welcome to show up, and you'd be surprised at how that actually works. Because who's going to show up to a business meeting? Well, people who are interested in doing business, and then it's not like we're keeping anything from anybody. So being extremely transparent, I think, keeps it from being an exclusive club. And just watching out for cliques too, like watching out for your own sense of, I want to be with these people and I don't want to be with those people. So you have to do it constantly all the time. But I mean, I could go on for hours about that, but I mean, if you have any specific questions, if there's anything particular, let me know. But it looks like you've got a really good teacher, and his name's Gyoke? Is that right? I know him as Yuki, so I'm sorry. But yeah, I think he probably got some good advice for you there too. Anyway, thanks for the question.
Kathy, I see your microphone open. Did you?
Yeah, I actually just wanted to thank you, Tracey. Really appreciated your talk, spoke deeply to me. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. I know you're a Buddha. Keep going. Hey.
Dear Tracy, I also want to deeply thank you from my heart, because I have been attending for almost a year the Wildrose Sangha silent sittings, and I'm here in Vienna, Austria, in Europe, on Jewish land, and I have just started my practice maybe a year ago. Had a very long interruption, but a very deep connection always to Vietnam and Thai. And my dogs are very loud, so I just want to say thank you so much for this invitation to your Dharma talk. It's been again so profound, and it's given so much space to make space in myself to understand deeper and to hear Thai through you. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm so glad that you are showing up. I always see you there smiling. I see the happiness. It just brightens my morning so much. And I'm like, oh, she's on another continent too. Wow. That feels so connected.
Tracey, I just wanted to pick up on something that you were saying before. And also, so I've been reading Joyfully Together as well. And one of the things that you were talking about, the business meetings and everybody's welcome to that. And I was reading and came across sort of the so as a job, I deal in parliamentary procedure all day long. So I was very interested to read sort of the mechanism for decision making that is present in the Plum Village tradition. I was just wondering if you could expand on that a little bit. Thank you.
Oh, that's a really good question, especially when related to your job. I can see how you'd be really interested in that. And it's like, oh my goodness. The thing about the Plum Village tradition, particularly the lay sanghas, is there's so much variety. And I mean, I think that can be very confusing for people because it's not like, oh, we have this textbook, and it's like we just follow this rule and then da 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 da. That is like, we really don't have that. So communities, and especially because it comes from the charter about the direct experimentation and making it adaptable to each community and that sort of thing. And again, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's just what works. And if you just have something that works for your Sangha, and then again, when bumps come up, you figure out how to work through those bumps, and then that'll shift and change and make new ways of doing things. The important part is that there's a combination, this is how I would see it, there's a combination of both sort of Confucian hierarchy as well as a completely Western democratic consensus process. So we're trying to merge different things going on here. And what that means is that there is a sense of that there is an elder sense to this community. So people who have been in the community longer, we listen to them deeply. We listen to people who have taken vows because they're really sort of really committed. So we want to listen to what they have to say, and it's important. But at the same time, young people and new people have a freshness of ideas. We also want to listen to them and hear what they have to say. I mean, part of what Thai did for his own tradition was because he was youthful and he upended the tradition he belonged to. So he wanted to keep that going. And at the same time, having consensus model, which means it's not just about majority, but really working through some of the difficulties when you say somebody is really speaking out about something. And again, we don't want to get sidetracked by strong pulls, but we want to keep it centered on what we're doing. Most communities have what's called a caretaking council, so that's which takes care of all of the business end of the community, and it also takes care of practice. And I think it's also helpful to know, like something we've developed too is what's called a quarterly practice review. And again, we're just inventing stuff, so who knows if this is the right way to do it. You could have an entire council that was just practice related and one that was business related, but we have, it's important to talk about practice and ask questions. Is this particular practice working? How do we work that out? And so at our quarterly practice reviews, we all get together and talk about that. We also have a general meeting every year to set the direction for the community. And I know it probably is easier if you had like a rule book, right? But I mean, if you want to make a rule book for your own Sangha, that's okay. Like I said, and then work it out. Does that work for everybody? It can get kind of tense inside because the agreement isn't based on authority. The agreement is based on, can we all agree on that? And then people come to the conclusion, yep, I think so. I think that's the other thing for people who are in the practice, to not be obstinate, to not try to just, well, I don't like that, so let's do something else. We all have to be in this together, saying we're going to work on it and build together. So I know that probably doesn't answer a whole lot of the questions because, yeah, in Joyfully Together, there are some, very traditional rules about the way you communicate and the way you defer authority and that sort of thing. I think if that works for your community, then try it out.
Can I pop in here with a comment? I think, well, because I also have an interest in parliamentary procedure. procedure like Aaron does. But it sounds like the commonality here is that we're in both situations, we inherit thousands of years of tradition, right? The Westminster parliamentary system is very old. Zen Buddhism is even older than that. But it sounds like it's up to the community to decide what the rules are within that tradition, just like in a parliament. I guess the benefit is that hopefully in a Sangha, we don't have two groups of people who are intent on absolutely destroying each other. And so we should hopefully be able to come up with a process that fits within the tradition, but also meets the aspirations of the group. Is that that
Yeah.
sound like?
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think what I would say is that don't expect there to be no bumps. Because if you expect there to be no bumps, then you might think there's something wrong with you, with your community, or with the practices and structure that you created. So it's kind of like, there are going to be bumps. Okay, let's expect there are going to be bumps and we're going to try to work it out. And that is totally okay. Don't feel afraid. It's just fine. And it's all like, I mean, I've seen every single Sangha go through bumps. Every single Sangha go through a bump. And it's just like, sometimes there's this massive power structure, or people just dump the practice and walk away and get tired, or the teacher leaves, or like, whew, like all kinds of things can happen. And embrace it as if it was like, this is my practice. Open your heart to it. Good luck. And by the way, like, you can always, contact me if you want any kind of support. I'm always happy to help.
Thank you, Tracey. I appreciate your candor and encouragement about the bumps. Yeah. And as people get together, there's bound to be bumps. Yeah, but maybe we'll just learn from them. Yeah.
I would also say, like, one of the things I did for a long time, again, as being sort of a leader in my community, is I took it on as personal. I took it like, oh, I failed and there's something wrong with me and I'm doing something wrong. And it's not that I don't want to, again, introspect and think about it, but only so much. It's like, otherwise, it's just you're damaging your own well-being. So be careful about that. Yeah, thank you. Wow, sweet people here.
Well, I think we're getting close to time and want to be respectful of everybody's time. So just wanted to say thank you very much again, Tracey, for offering the talk and answering questions. I was wondering if you might be willing to close with a dedication of merit.
Okay. So the dedication of merit usually has a call and response. I can sing both parts, or I guess, yeah, I'm the only person who knows how to do it. So I'll just sing the dedication once. Dedication of merit. May the merits of this practice benefit all beings and bring peace